Hello again, everyone. I'm Chris Lick, and welcome to Oklahoma Sports Scene here at the Wee Street Ice Center. It's nice and cool inside. Well, this Athlon Sports magazine, one of the very best preseason college football magazines. We'll be talking with their college football editor, Steven Lassan. Then Dale Apollo Cook, one of the great martial arts experts, be on the show, an Oklahoma Sports Hall of Famer. And we'll take a look back in the archives here, pull one of my favorite interviews with Hall of Fame jockey Ron Turcotte on the great Secretariat 50 years ago. Last year, he won the Triple Crown. This is the Athlon Sports College Football Preview Magazine. Steven Lassan's our college football editor, puts it all together. So we asked him about some of the history of Athlon Sports, the amount of work it takes to put all these 192 pages together.
Hey, Chris, it's great to talk to you. Yeah, Athlon Sports has been around for a while. We started in 1967 as an SEC regional preview magazine. The guy who started our company loved the SEC, wanted to know more about the teams in the conference, wanted to give all that information. And so 1967, that's where the company was born as an SEC regional preview magazine, and expanded to from there. We've done Big 10, Big 12, Eastern, Western ACC magazines. So from there, in about 1995, we started the magazine that you had there, the National Preview Edition, which previews all 134 teams in the nation. My job as the college football editor for Athlon Sports is basically once the season ends in December or January, I'm already started getting ready for the next one. I start, going through all these teams throughout the offseason. I deep dive on every team, whether that's Alabama, whether that's South Alabama, Louisiana Monroe, you name it. I'd spend the offseason just deep diving all of these teams in an effort to put this magazine together. So we spend January, February, March putting all those pieces together, the background information. And then once we get to April and May, we finalize all of our predictions and rankings, the all conference teams, and we get all of our team stories in from beat writers who cover those teams on the local level to sort of give us the best kind of local perspective that we can.
Actually, let's start at the top of the magazine where you guys started with your top 25. Notice that Oklahoma is ranked number 16, Oklahoma State number 19.
On Oklahoma, I think the first thing that jumps out to me is the season of change, with the move to the SEC and only one losing season since 1999. I think that's kind of the interesting parallel here is a program that just doesn't have losing seasons moving into the nation's toughest conference with a big question mark. And the reason why we've got them down at 16 is, number one, the schedule is very difficult moving to the SEC. But also the offensive line. That's the biggest question for this Oklahoma team. I know Oklahoma fans are probably tired of hearing about the offensive line, 5 new starters, how these transfers going to fit in. But it is the biggest question. And you just look at who they're going to be playing this year, the defensive lines that are in the SEC. 6, 7 of these defensive lines could be among the top 12 in the nation. So it is a big question. Now, on the positive side for Oklahoma, I think this defense took a big step forward last year, bringing back All-American linebacker Danny Stutzman, and also the improvement that we saw on the stat sheet. They were about a touchdown better in terms of fewest yards per points per game allowed. So they were definitely better last season. And I think with the returning personnel they have and now the third year under Brent Venables, I think this defense can be one of the best in the SEC. The question is going to be how far does this offensive line improve throughout the season? Because otherwise, offensively, you've got a rising star quarterback in Jackson Arnold. You've got one of the best receiving cores in the country. Skill talent is not an issue. This Oklahoma team will score some points as long as the offensive line holds up. On Oklahoma State, I think the interesting thing is, to go back to last season, 2-2, and pretty much everybody, including myself, wrote them off. Thought that there's no way they're going to rebound and go to the Big 12 championship game, and here they are. They reeled off, enough wins, and then eventually played Texas for the Big 12 championship. And I think you look at what last year provided was all that experience is still there. The most returning starters of any team in the Big 12 this preseason. Ollie Gordon's back, a couple All-Americans on defense as well, with Nick Martin coming back at linebacker. This team has all the experience they need to make the Big 12 championship game again. And you look at those first 2 games kind of early in the season, home against Utah, playing Kansas State as well. Those games are huge for positioning within the Big 12. But overall, I think the theme for Oklahoma State in the Big 12 is there's a lot of teams that are just going to be clustered together right at the top of the Big 12. So small margins could really matter. And I think if you wanted to make the case for Oklahoma State to be higher, it's experience plus maybe another year of the defense getting better, plus Alan Bowman taking a step forward, and that might be enough for Oklahoma State to get back to the Big 12 championship game.
Mentioned Alan Bowman, their quarterback. Talk about a veteran. This is his seventh year in college football. It's a different game now.
Yeah, it's kind of the I guess the era of the transfer portal plus the super seniors. I mean, I guess you could make the joke he's going to be collecting Social Security soon and still be playing for Mike Gundy down there in Stillwater. But remember back playing at Texas Tech. But yeah, he really is one of the keys to the season for Oklahoma State because you got to like their skill talent on the outside at receiver, experienced offensive line. I think potentially one of the top 10 offensive lines in the country. But he does have to play better. I mean, too many interceptions last season. Just need more overall consistency. And I think when you start kind of studying some of these Big 12 teams, Cam Rising is back at Utah. Avery Johnson, the quarterback at Kansas State's a breakout candidate. Jalen Daniels is back at Kansas. Oklahoma State, in terms of quarterback potential, they're probably on the lower end of the quarterback rankings. So they probably need Alan Bowman to take a big step forward if they want to win the conference this year.
Well, Oklahoma Sportscene show, our guest is Steven Lassan. He is the college football editor for Athlon's big preview sports magazine. And we also cover, of course, obviously our own school, the University of Tulsa, then Arkansas with the Razorbacks. Let's talk about Arkansas first. Coach Sam Pittman's on your hot seat for coaches, I noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a critical year for Sam Pittman at Arkansas. I mean, not only is it the win total trend, you go from 9 to 7 to 4, it's not trending in the right direction. And not to mention the way that this team played at the end of last year. I mean, they got blown out by Missouri and Auburn. They just weren't, at the end of the year, they just weren't playing their best ball, which led to a lot of questions. I think there was a lot of uncertainty as to whether Sam Pittman would survive for 2024. So I think you start to turn the page to this year and you look at that schedule. I mean, down the stretch, the second half of the schedule for Arkansas is brutal. I mean, I think they play 6 of their 7 SEC games are going to be against top 25 opponents. So I think it's important for Arkansas to make up some ground early in the season. And one of those games they're going to have to probably win is at Oklahoma State. That's a huge non-conference game for both teams, kind of a prove-it opportunity for Arkansas. But if you want to look at optimism, I think for the Hogs, it's that Boise State transfer Taylon Green was awesome in the spring. Looks like they really got a steal at quarterback there. Not to mention the return of Bobby Petrino as offensive coordinator. I think that's a huge pickup for Arkansas. You just look at their production. Last year in the SEC, struggled to get anything going, offensive line, rushing attack, you name it. Petrino is such a veteran and such a proven play caller that I think it'll make a difference. So in terms of Pittman's hot seat, I think you got to get to a bowl game this year. And with Oklahoma and Texas coming in the league, it's not getting any easier. And it's also not getting any easier on the pressure point when you have two kind of regional rivals coming back into the league.
Well, Sam Pittman in his 4th season now with the Razorbacks. His record 23-25. Last season, the Hogs were 4-8, but 1-7 in the SEC. And as much as people love Sam Pittman, as much as he seems to fit that program perfectly, they're getting a little impatient over there.
Absolutely. I think you kind of said it best there. Like everybody loves Sam Pittman. Like just in terms of like coaches, you just want to kind of probably hang out with or just talk to like a normal like person. Like Sam Pittman's up there. Like he's just an awesome individual. But this is the SEC when you start thinking about it. I mean, one bad season can put you on the hot seat, and we see this with Sam Pittman. Like the trend, like I mentioned, the trend line was 9 wins to 7 wins to 4 wins, and just 1 win in the SEC. And so I think if you're Arkansas, you just can't fall too far behind. And with Oklahoma and Texas coming into the league this year, it's really important for Pittman to get this program back on track.
And the University of Tulsa got some love from you there. Their head coach, Kevin Wilson, in his 2nd season now, got a lot of background experience. They Hurricane were in games. They lost 3 of the last 4 games by 7 points or less. Feel better about the team this year. And I see a big write-up on them on page 65. How do you break down the Golden Hurricane?
I think, to use a word we used earlier, I think the theme of this season for college football is change. And that's true with the American, with SMU leaving, Army coming into the conference. And I think in general, that's been the theme for the American the last couple of years. I mean, not to mention they just lost Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF to the Big 12. I bring that up because when I look at the American this year, I see 4 teams that are kind of separated at the top. That's Tulane, UTSA, Memphis, and South Alabama. from 5 to 14, there's a lot of room for these teams to move kind of up and down the rankings. There's not a ton of separation. And I think that provides an opportunity for Tulsa. And I think to go back to last season, the close games at the end of the year, beating East Carolina, those close losses, it felt like they found something. Like they felt like they turned a corner under Coach Kevin Wilson in his first year. I really like quarterback Kirk Francis. He played well at the end of last season. You throw in Anthony Watkins and Camden Benjamin at receiver, they're going to score some points, and they're going to need to because this defense is still a big question. But I think the opportunity is there with some of the swing games at home for Tulsa in the second year, if they can get this offense ramped up to go to a bowl game and finish much higher than we have them projected.
Even wrapping up this segment, let's talk about possible breakthrough teams in your top 25 nationally.
Yeah, I think the first team that comes to my mind is a team that's actually kind of picked pretty high, and that's Ole Miss. I know everyone's going to be talking about Georgia and Texas and Alabama this preseason. I like this Ole Miss team a lot. I don't think they can necessarily dethrone Georgia from the top of the SEC. They'll get their chance in a conference game in November this year, and after what happened last year in Athens, there's a lot of motivation for Lane Kiffin to keep that one a lot closer this time in Oxford. But just in general, this is an Ole Miss team that's got a lot of firepower offensively with Jackson Dart coming back. They've made a lot of improvements to the transfer portal to improve that defense. So I really like this Ole Miss team. I think if you're looking for a team that, even though we've got them picked high, maybe they could win a couple games in the playoff, I would certainly keep an eye on them. Tennessee's another one. I think what's interesting about Tennessee is we've got them picked in our top 15. But it is very much a quarterback-driven pick. The quarterback Nico Amaliava from former five-star recruit, big-time potential. And you look at his performance in the bowl game against Iowa, there is the potential for this Tennessee offense to get back like it was in 2022, where they nearly made the playoffs. So I think if Tennessee can get its offense ramped up, I think you're looking at a team that could easily be in the top 10 and win double-digit games. Outside of that, if you're looking for a couple sleepers, I would throw out kind of like your traditional recruit really well, maybe haven't won a lot recently, and that's Miami, Texas A&M, and Nebraska. I would keep an eye on them as if you're looking for dark horse playoff contenders this year.
Athlon also does their All-American list and their Heisman watch. We'll come back with that to Steven Lassan right after we take this break on Oklahoma Sports Scene.
As the sun rises over eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
Winning action continues throughout the summer at Remington Park. Simulcast racing begins daily before noon from the top tracks across North America. Jackpot play is always available as the casino is always open. Mark your calendars now for the 2024 Thoroughbred season at Remington Park, starting August 16th and continuing through December 13th. Winning racing and casino play every day at Remington Park.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
And welcome back to Athlon Sports here, visiting with Steven Lassan. He is the college football editor of Athlon's magazine. It's the kind of definitive Bible for all of us in the industry, certainly for sure. 134 pages devoted to every one of the FBS football teams. But also, they spend a lot of time, Steven, obviously, going through All-American lists and a Heisman watch list. Let's start with your three All-American teams you set up. And what jumps out to us, of course, we've got the top running back in the country, it looks like, and Oklahoma State's Ollie Gordon II.
Absolutely. He is our top running back in the nation for 2024, first team All-American. It was really an easy pick. When some of these positions this year, whether it was offensive line, defensive line, throw some of the linebackers, Some of those positions were hard. It wasn't hard to pick Ollie Gordon first team All-America, first team All Big 12. I think you go back to last season, and one of the things that we kind of mentioned earlier was slow start, but getting to the Big 12 championship game. And it kind of felt like the first couple weeks of the season, Oklahoma State was kind of almost experimenting, trying to find the right mix. Well, once Ollie Gordon really took off at running back, that's when Oklahoma State took off and really kind of became the team that ended up making the Big 12 championship game. So I think Ollie Gordon's emergence really drove Oklahoma State last year. And you just look at the production. I mean, the leading the nation of rushing yards, the yards per game were high, the catches, just the overall impact. I mean, the talent, everything you see there makes him, in my mind, the most complete running back in college football for 2024.
Among your breakout players you said to take a look at is Oklahoma's young quarterback, Jackson Arnold, the five-star recruit, struggled a bit in the bowl game, but said he's had a fabulous camp, and everybody's very excited about seeing this young man take over the Sooner offense.
Yeah, really excited to watch a full season of Jackson Arnold. I'm always interested when, you kind of go back to the handoff for Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel was very good, but you can't lose a quarterback like Jackson Arnold and his potential. It's kind of the new era of college football with the transfer portal. I mean, quarterbacks don't have to sit for a couple years to play. They can play right away. But you saw the talent, as you mentioned, in the bowl game, but also a little up and down. But also, also keep in mind, too, I think Jeff Lebby left from Mississippi State. It was Seth Luttrell's first game calling plays. There was a lot of new in that game for Oklahoma. So I think with a full offseason to get ready, Seth Luttrell, I think, is going to do an outstanding job as offensive coordinator. I think Jackson Arnold is going to be a breakout year. The SEC is loaded with great quarterbacks this season, but just add Jackson Arnold to that. We saw the talent in the bowl game, just some things to clean up. And the offensive line will be the big question, like we mentioned earlier in the show, is how well can they protect him? Because the talent's there, the receiving core is there. All those pieces, I think, are in place for Jackson Arnold to have a huge year.
Also, Athlon's college football issue takes a look at what they consider things to watch for in 2024 in college football. And number 2 on the list was Oklahoma and Texas joining the SEC. And I know you kept track of that, but July 1st, they had a massive celebration statewide here in Oklahoma. It's really got people excited in the state to finally be able to say SEC without making it sound bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate to use the word again, but it's a year of change, with the 12-team playoff, all the conferences changing is, I think, the Big 12, the ACC, Big 10, SEC, all the power conferences have had some teams change coming in, coming out. So it really is a unique year. I think just, for Oklahoma and Texas, it's kind of cliche to say it. I mean, the SEC, the tagline, it just means more. I mean, it is bigger and better. I mean, the Oklahoma, Texas fit perfectly into the SEC map. They fit perfectly from a geographic, from a regional rivalry perspective, just adding in more big time matchups to the nation's best conference. So I'm interested to see how these teams fare right away. I mean, Texas made the college football playoff last year. Expectations are sky high again this year. Oklahoma comes into the league, I think maybe a little bit underrated because of the offensive line and a difficult schedule. But I think this is a team that long-term Oklahoma is going to be fine in the SEC. I think it just may be a little bit bumpy to start giving some of the personnel question marks that they have.
Talk about a challenge, Steven. I don't know how you and your guys put all this together, but you even went out and projected the teams playing in bowl games, what bowls and who the opponent's going to be. I might chat about that a little bit here. And I notice you have Oklahoma against an old Big 12 foe, Kansas. Playing on a New Year's Eve bowl at NRG Stadium in Houston, Big 12 foe, and that's going to be interesting in the Texas Bowl, you're saying.
Yeah, I think to go back to last season again. Oklahoma and Kansas played a pretty entertaining game. So let's hope maybe we can get it again. I think when you start kind of projecting bowl games in the offseason, it's always challenging because there's so many twists and turns during the year. But I would love to see these two teams play. I mean, first of all, just like I said, last season's game, but also the offensive fireworks that we can get, and that's kind of the unusual thing that we'll see with all the conference realignment changes. Is some of these bowl tie-ins are going to have to change, and it's going to be a lot of teams that were just in conferences together that are now in different ones, probably playing each other in bowl games. But the Texas Bowl, I think, would be a pretty nice geographic fit for Oklahoma. You get a regional rival in Kansas. I think it'd be a pretty entertaining bowl game if it works out. And like I said, given the way these two teams are constructed, there could be a lot of points this year.
You have any bowl projection for Oklahoma State at this point? I've heard everything from not making a bowl game to getting one of the big bowl games.
I would be stunned if Oklahoma State misses a bowl game this year. I think this team is very much in the mix to win the Big 12, probably, right there in the top, somewhere in the top 10 to 20 teams in the nation. We've projected them to go to the Pop-Tarts Bowl in Orlando. If you don't go to one of the New Year's Six bowl games, this is one of the better bowl games on the slate. Usually it pits a very highly ranked ACC team against one of the better teams in the Big 12. And we have them projected to play Clemson. So it'd be a lot of orange down there in Orlando. But Clemson versus Oklahoma State, I think, would be a pretty fun bowl matchup if we could get that this year.
And for the first time, college football has expanded their playoff system from 4 games to 12 games. Steven Lassan takes a deep dive on that. He brings bracketology to college football. We'll come right back with that. Athlon Sports College Football Preview Magazine, our spotlight on Oklahoma sports scene this week. Stay with us.
It's time. Time to get back to the basics. Time to meet up with family and friends. Time to play ball. It's time to cheer on your Tulsa Drillers. It's Hornsby time. It's Tulsa time in the heart of the city. It's time to fire it up.
Founded in 1960, Ed Bashira's Formal Wear and Fine Clothing has been dressing gentlemen for over half a century. We are family owned and operated, offering premium brand tuxedos and accessories in our Tulsa store on South Harvard. Bashira's also does made-to-measure suits, sports coats, dress shirts, and slacks, and a top line of sportswear. We do tailoring on site to assure the perfect fit so you will look your very best for that special occasion. Ed Bashira's Formal Wear and Fine Clothing, an Oklahoma tradition.
Indoor football is back, Tulsa, and season tickets are going quick. Don't miss Saturday night entertainment starting as low as $9 a month. The Tulsa Oilers indoor football team kicks off again in March, Saturday nights, 7 p.m. BOK Center. Season tickets are on sale now. Go to TulsaOilersFootball.com. That's TulsaOilersFootball.com. Get your season tickets now. Don't miss your chance to experience the fast-paced, helmet-hitting, pad-popping excitement of professional indoor football. TulsaOilersFootball.com.
The Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, home of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, is a treasure trove of memorabilia honoring Oklahoma sports legends. For museum hours or to schedule a tour, go to oklahomasportshalloffame.org.
This will be the first season for the college football playoff extension from 4 to 12. Given first year reaction in Athlon Sports Magazine, feels like it's about time. People are really excited about finally 12 teams, and SEC licking their chops, figure they can get teams in now finally with 2, maybe even 3 losses.
Absolutely. I think, and just in general, I think there's a lot of intrigue for me to see how the college football playoff works out this year, just because it's something new. What does the committee value in terms of really good wins? How do they evaluate strength of schedule? We had one of the most controversial selections last year with Florida State getting left out. I don't know that the 12th or 11th best team will be as controversial, but I'm sure there's still going to be a lot of difficult decisions that this committee will make. So I think that just the first year of seeing how all this works, we've already seen that, the SEC and Big Ten have tried to throw their weight around in the future too, to try to get those top 2 spots in the bye week. But for now, I think the Big Ten and SEC are probably going to dominate most of these selections. Look at our top 25, Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama picked in the top 10. The Big Ten as well with Ohio State, Oregon, and Michigan. I mean, these 2 conferences right now, college football really, really revolves kind of around these 2, and I expect that to be the case when the selections are announced in December.
Well, think about bracketology, you think about college basketball, but now it's come to college football. And taking a look at the top for you here, Steven, your buys for the college football playoffs. Not surprising, also Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State, and projected to be the Big 12 champion, Utah.
It kind of an unusual quirk in the selection process is you kind of have to forget about how the committee ranks teams just on a sort of the usual top 25 you're used to, because that's not the way they're going to be in the on Selection Sunday. What's going to happen is they're going to take the top 4 conference champions. So we've projected Utah to be the Big 12 champion. They might be ranked 10th, 11th, 12th, but they will move up to the top 4 and get a bye week for that first round of matchups. So, when you look at those the top 4 champions, conference champions, will get bye weeks. That could be a group of 5 team. And in our projections, kind of like you mentioned, Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State, and Utah would be the projected conference champions. getting the bye weeks. Not necessarily the 4 best teams, but they're the 4 highest rated conference champions.
I like the fact that the first round games are on campus sites.
You and me both. Personally, I wish that they were on campus sites all the way up until like the semifinals, because that's kind of what college football is great about. I mean, is all the home sites and all the home atmospheres. So the fact that we can get some home playoff games like at Oregon, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama, I'm all for it. I'd love to see it almost like I said through the way, but that is kind of one advantage if you're if you don't, obviously you want to have a bye week and not have to play that first week. But the next best advantage is being one of those teams that's ranked, 3 through 6 or so, to be able to have a home game in the first round of the playoff.
Then if you get through your on-campus site, you go to the quarterfinals, and that's when the bowl system comes back into place. And Jimmy, you already projected the Sugar Bowl, Georgia versus Alabama, Rose Bowl, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Peach Bowl, Florida State, Texas, Fiesta Bowl, Utah, Oregon. It's a great lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you were on the fence about the college football playoff, I mean, those matchups ought to get you excited, right? I mean, those are some high-profile, big-time matchups. I mean, to get Georgia, Alabama, we would already see it once during the season, but to see it twice, maybe even 3 times if they play in the conference championship game, yeah, sign me up. Sign me up for Ole Miss going to Ohio State and see Texas play Florida State. They are in the bowl game, so it's a little, like I said, the home atmosphere won't be there, but still, this is just kind of a further way to illustrate how awesome this college football season is going to be. The expanded playoffs, so many new teams getting in there. Who knows what's going to happen in these games? It's just another reason that this season could be really unpredictable with all the changes.
One of the guys with the best resume in college football covering it is Steven Lassan, our guest here from Athlon Sports. And you also look ahead to the national semifinals. Hard to argue these two. The Orange Bowl, number 1 Georgia versus number 5 Oregon. Cotton Bowl, number 6 Texas versus number 2 Ohio State.
A lot of SEC and Big Ten there, 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten. Still seems weird to say Oregon in the Big Ten because we're used to seeing Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, right? But in this case, yeah, this kind of goes back to what we talked about in sort of college football revolving around these 2 conferences. And I expect that these 2 conferences are probably going to dominate the selections and also dominate the semifinals and eventually the national championship game. But if that's the semifinals, I think we're in pretty good shape as a college football fan, because Georgia, Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State, I believe, are the 4 best teams going into the season. So I hope we get these teams in the semifinals to see it play out.
The national championship game is set for January the 20th in Atlanta, in the great Mercedes-Benz Dome down there. 6:30 p.m. national on ESPN Central Time. Number 1 Georgia versus number 2 Ohio State. We've been here before.
Yeah, we've been here before, and the last time that these 2 teams played was a heck of a semifinal matchup that came down to the very last play. So, knock on wood, let's get that kind of matchup again. Let's get another kind of fun, back and forth, high-scoring game. But I do think, just in terms of the big picture, I mentioned that Oregon and Texas, Ohio State and Georgia, I think, are the clear top 4 this year. I do think Ohio State and Georgia are the clear number 1 and number 2 teams in the nation. I think after that, there is a little bit of a gap to Oregon and Texas. So if this is the national championship, in my mind, this is the best 2 teams, but it's also SEC versus Big Ten. We'd get Carson Beck, the Georgia quarterback, against an outstanding Ohio State defense. That awesome Ohio State cast of skilled players against an outstanding Georgia defense. So maybe the season will give us some more twists and turns. So if that's the national championship, I'm all here for it. Sign me up.
Jim, one of your exclusives in Athlon Sports, I was really intrigued by this. You have a thing you call your scouting, where you have actually assistants on other teams talking about the opponent. You're kind of anonymously, but at least giving their opinion of what that team's like. Very interesting comments on those.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite features in the magazine, and largely because during the season, coaches don't want to give other teams bulletin board material. They're trying not to say anything that might provide any motivation. Well, we're trying to say you are completely anonymous. You can say whatever you want. And we try and talk to as many coaches in these leagues as we can. And I think the kind of the benefit is it does gives you some interesting intel on the season. You may, sometimes I don't agree with it. Sometimes I do, but I think it's interesting information just to get what the coaches think and what the coaches are seeing coming into this league. So a lot of interesting stuff on all 134 teams on the coach scouting front in the Athlon Sports magazine.
Interesting. The comments first about Oklahoma State. That's, by the way, on page 82. One of the coaches on the other side had some interesting things to say about Oklahoma State, and kind of talk about how they came back from the dead last season, and made a big run, could have a big influence on the Big 12.
Absolutely. I think the takeaway from me on those coach scouting things for Oklahoma State was they were very high on Mike Gundy. I think just the job that he did last season, the job sort of he is doing, sort of steering the ship at Oklahoma State in this new era of college football. And I think you saw some other questions from those opposing coaches. There's no doubt about Ollie Gordon. You know, the opposing coaches were very high on Ollie Gordon in the coach scouting. There is some questions about how this defense will continue to improve in year 2. And that was my takeaway, is that the opposing coaches believe in Mike Gundy, they believe in Ollie Gordon, but they have question marks about this defense and whether or not it can be good enough or at least improve in year 2 under coordinator Brian Nardo to potentially go back and win the Big 12 championship game this year.
All right, we're counting it down. August 24th is that 0 week, they call it. We have actually 4 games on the schedule. The Aer Lingus College Football Classic, Florida State, Georgia Tech going over to Ireland to play in Dublin. That's 11 a.m. game on ESPN. Then back in the States here on that 0 week, SMU Nevada at 6 on CBS Sports Network, Montana State, New Mexico, 3 p.m. FS1, Delaware State, Hawaii. Not many big names, but all we care about is football's back.
Absolutely. Yeah. I joked about this all the time. You could tell me that Central Michigan and Arkansas State are going to be playing in Idaho tomorrow, and I'm finding a way to watch it. I am ready for the college football season to get here. It's going to be an awesome season with all the changes, the new playoff, all the new matchups, the realignment, the expansion. So a lot of change, but I think can't wait to get here for week 0 and even week 1, because this season really could be unpredictable. But also I think it's going to be an awesome season just overall.
And with everything else we got to think about and worry about, you throw in a $2.8 billion lawsuit. The NCAA going no mas. I think they're 0 for the last decade in terms of lawsuits. They just gave up and turned it over to the schools. The schools are now trying to put their money together, and it's going to open up a lot of things. I know Oklahoma's got big money things going on, and Texas, all those schools like that, but different era for sure.
It is. Lawyers are the only one that's winning in this, Chris. You and I I heard the wrong profession. We should have been lawyers to be going against the NCAA. We could be winning a lot right now. But it is a totally different era, whether it's the portal, whether it's NIL, whether it's the House settlement that's gone on, and all the changes. The last few years in college football have been a lot of changes and a lot of sort of unpredictability. But I think the good news is, once August 24th gets here, once the season gets here, I think we all forget about the chaos in the offseason, and we just focus on how awesome the games are going to be and all the awesome changes that the sport's going to bring us this season with the new playoff.
Well, Steve, we certainly thank you very much for joining us and spending a lot of time with us here to preview the 2024 college football season. Again, pick up this magazine. It's the Athlon College Football Preview. Steve Lassan's team has done a great job with this. Looking forward to that. And Stephen, I hope your predictions, maybe send more to our schools, but I hope they give us a great matchups for sure. Looking forward to that.
Absolutely. I only root for one thing during the season, and that is, 2, chaos and our predictions to be right. So I look forward to seeing how the season plays out for sure.
Steven Lassan, Athlon Sports Magazine. We'll come right back with an Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame member right after the break.
You've seen the billboards, you've heard the hype, and now it's time for the Wee Street Ice Center to open its doors and welcome you in. 140,000 square feet, 2 ice rinks, public skating, hockey, arcade, game simulators, and the largest sports bar and grill is sliding into Tulsa. It's the grand opening of the new Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale. Make your plans, get your skate on, or watch some sports today. The Wee Street Ice Center, now open and ready to serve you. Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale.
Around the clock, throughout eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
Joining Oklahoma sports scene right now is former world champion kickboxer Dale Apollo Cook. Dale, now you've been part of this martial arts scene since 1977. What got you started?
I was just a 12-year-old getting picked on at school, and I saw my first Bruce Lee movie, and I begged my mama till she took me to Taekwondo classes, and I started, golly, it's got to be 45, 47 years ago, something like that.
7th degree black belt in Taekwondo, fought middleweight, super middleweight, light heavyweight, cruiserweight. Tell us about your world championships.
Well, I got lucky and had the opportunity to fight in Japan, which is where kickboxing was really big in the 70s. Wasn't much in the United States yet, and when I got to go to Japan and fight, I was a big underdog, and I pulled an upset and got a win. And actually, I won my first 4 fights over there, and kind of became a hero of sorts in Japan, because Americans were brought over to lose, not win. And anyway, God blessed me to be in the right place at the right time, and I won a world championship and moved up in weight class as I grew, and ended up winning 5 world championships, and had a very, very long career, 125 professional prize fights as both a boxer and a kickboxer. And it wasn't an easy life, but I was doing what I wanted to do, and it was always fun.
Yeah, you made it clear too. You were proud of the fact you could represent Tulsa, Oklahoma, and the USA over there.
Yeah, it was great to fight, kind of, for your country. And I always fought with the name of my city, Tulsa, across the front of my trunks. I wanted them folks in Asia to know where that crazy white boy came from.
Well, in mid-1990s, you got into shoot boxing. Now what's that?
Shoot boxing was a forerunner of today's UFC. It kind of combined judo, wrestling, and kickboxing. It was one of the first mixed martial arts professional leagues. And it was a little bit new and different to me, as it was the rest of the world. And turned out my judo came in pretty handy, my judo training, and allowed me to become a champion in that sport as well. And I probably would have done UFC if it had been around in my day. But I probably would have done just about anything. When you're making $500 a fight, you have to fight a lot of fights to make a living.
This UFC thing has really exploded, hasn't it?
It has. It's up there now with the Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA. It's one of the top 6 sports in the world today, and it continues to grow now worldwide. It's a great way of bringing all the martial arts together under one set of rules, and to find out who's best. And we've gone through many levels of evolution as the combat sports has continued to grow. At first, when UFC started, the Brazilians who knew jiu-jitsu just dominated the sport, because nobody else knew how to play that game. And then wasn't too far after that wrestlers became dominant, because they were able to impose the fight to the ground. And when they learned a little bit of how to defend jiu-jitsu, they dominated. Then it became an era where kickboxers dominated, because they learned how to defend takedowns and how to defend submissions. And it just continues to evolve. Right now, I think of the 10 UFC champions, 4 of them are kickboxers, 4 of them are wrestlers, and 2 of them come from jiu-jitsu. So it's kind of all evened out. And today, you can't just be one style. those days are over. You have to be really versed in wrestling, jiu-jitsu, boxing, and kickboxing, or you'll never even make it to UFC.
Martial arts world champion Dale Apollo Cook joining us here. What's this thing lately? You tried that bare knuckles fighting. What's that all about?
Well, to start with, we're selling out the Cove at River Spirit every event. We don't need gimmicks to sell tickets. But the state of Oklahoma, like 40 other states, legalized bare knuckle boxing. And when they approved it, well, it's coming whether you like it or you don't like it. And it would be real hypocritical of me, the guy who pushed mixed martial arts when it was banned, to say, oh, that's too brutal, you can't do that. And I took the approach the same as I did with MMA. If it's going to be legal, if it's coming here anyway, we're going to be first and we're going to do it right. And that's what we did back in February. We had our first bare knuckle boxing event. I was a little nervous about it. The fans were very curious about it, and it delivered one of the most entertaining fights of the night. And here last Friday, we had our second bare knuckle fight. We're just doing one bare knuckle boxing fight per show. And let's see let the fans decide. If they love it, we're going to keep doing it. If they don't like it, then we'll let it pass. But it's a great opportunity for fighters who have had a career in another sport, boxing, MMA, or kickboxing, to start their career over, because everybody in that sport now is pretty much 0-0. And there's a little bit more blood because there's no gloves. But is it more dangerous than MMA or kickboxing? I don't think so, because you can hit a whole lot harder with a glove on than you can with bare hands, because you break those bare hands. And, you have to place your shots in that sport a whole lot more precisely. But it is a wild thing. And just the fact that guys don't have gloves on, it's just a whole nother look. And fight fans so far have enjoyed it, and we'll probably you'll do that again in our next event coming up in August.
Dale Apollo Cook, and congratulations. You're an Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame member, class of 2023, the first martial arts person ever recognized the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame. Well-deserved and certainly well-earned. Congratulations, Dale.
Well, thank you so much. One of the coolest things about that honor was being inducted with you, my friend, on the same class.
Shows are getting old, I guess.
Right. And I remember back when you were at sports director at Channel 8, right. I'm the world champion from Tulsa, Oklahoma, coming up. And you were so kind to me to cover my sport, which nobody knew anything about back in those days. And you were very instrumental in helping make me and my sport a big deal in Tulsa. So I thank you for that. It made it real special to be inducted alongside you in the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame.
Well, my honor too, Dale. Congratulations again. Glad to join us. Look forward to your next big event. And by the way, you have another champion coming up next on Oklahoma Sports Team. We're going to look back at the great Secretariat, jockey Ron Turcotte, when we return.
Indoor football is back, Tulsa, and season tickets are going quick. Don't miss Saturday night entertainment starting as low as $9 a month. The Tulsa Oilers indoor football team kicks off again in March, Saturday nights, 7 p.m. BOK Center. Season tickets are on sale now. Go to TulsaOilersFootball.com. That's TulsaOilersFootball.com. Get your season tickets now. Don't miss your chance to experience the fast-paced, helmet-hitting, pad-popping excitement of professional indoor football. TulsaOilersFootball.com.
The Remington Park Casino is always open for jackpot gaming. The winning action never ends. Enjoy great food and drinks in the Bricktown Brewery, open daily at 11 a.m. Simulcast racing is offered every day, featuring North America's best tracks. Visit the Club Remington desk for player card membership and begin earning points and rewards. The jackpots are always flowing. The next one could be yours at Remington Park.
The Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, home of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, is a treasure trove of memorabilia honoring Oklahoma sports legends. For museum hours or to schedule a tour, go to oklahomasportshalloffame.org.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Sports Scene. We're back into our archives to pull out one of my favorite interviews with Ron Turcotte, the Hall of Fame jockey of one of the greatest race horses of all time, Secretariat. It was 50 years ago last year that he swept the Triple Crown, first Triple Crown winner in a quarter of a century. Talked to Ron Turcotte from his home in Grand Falls, New Brunswick, Canada. Asked him his first impressions when he saw the big red chestnut horse as a 2-year-old in 1972.
Back when I first saw him, he was a handsome dude, and I'll tell you, the first ride I had on him, it was amazing. He was so intelligent. You teach him something, he could go right on and keep on doing it after. Oh, he was beautiful. Never shied from anything.
Well, let's go through the Triple Crown. 1973, you had the upset loss in the Wood, a lot of pressure on the syndicate, just syndicated for $6 million, and you were ready to go in the Kentucky Derby. Tell us about that race leading up to it.
Kentucky Derby had just been beaten in Wood Memorial, and I found out early that, well, not early, really, before the last week, though. I found out from Dr. Gilman that he had an abscess under his upper lip. And I says, thanks, Doc. That solved my mystery. I says, now we're going from here. But the last time I worked him, he was back to himself. And I says, well, he, to myself, that he was gonna win.
Well, Ronnie, he performed one of the most amazing things in thoroughbred racing history. He ran every quarter mile of a mile and a quarter faster than the previous one. 25 and 1, 24, 23 and 4, 23 and 2, 23 flat. Amazing.
It was amazing, but I'll tell you, he was a horse. Like I said, you could do anything with him. I said that before many times. He realized good, and whenever I wanted to move to improve my position, I just stuck to him and he went on, or just moved my hand a little bit on him, and then as soon as I got where I wanted to be, I just relaxed again, and you relax, and then another hole opened, and I go through that one. I kept doing that throughout the backside till I get the 5/8 pole. Then the 5/8 pole, I took him to the outside, make sure he didn't get stuck. So my job really was to keep him out of trouble and get him a clear field of running.
All right, 2 weeks later, you go to the Pimlico, the Preakness, and you shocked everybody with a big, quick move around the first turn. Was that you or was that Secretariat?
That was me. Secretariat never did anything he wasn't asked to do. And whenever I called on him, he was right there. All the time, every time, except when he had it was problem like the abscess or the high fever, the Saratoga, the flu he had caught there. And but besides that, and the Woodward, he was not ready for that race. Besides them races there, anytime I call on him, regardless of the footing or regardless of anything, he'd just move on and nobody finishes in front of him after that. Besides that.
Well, then it'd been 25 years. We had a Triple Crown winner. It all comes down to the Belmont of 1973, 3 weeks after the Preakness. And Ronnie, a lot of people thought you were out of your mind. How did Secretary get that far in front? Everybody thought he was running way too fast, and yet he just made 31-length victory. Take us through that incredible 1.5 Belmont Stakes.
Well, I'll tell you, we had a good team, a very good team. We had Eddie Sweat, the groom, Charlie Davis, the exercise boy, and in all his workout, I was doing the workout. So I knew exactly where the horse was at all time, and I knew what he was up to. So it didn't bother me at all when I went to the lead, and I just kept on going. I had him in that long striding, ground covering stride, and I wasn't worried about it. I know everybody says thought I was nuts.
I love that very famous shot back down the stretch. Really couldn't even see other horses. And you looked over your shoulder there what did you think as you look back at the field 31 lengths behind you?
Well, when you said I was 20 lengths in front, I turned my head and I looked at the clock, and I had 159 flat for a mile and a quarter. And then I had to look across to see the horses behind me. And then I just let him low on down on the stretch. He was running well within himself. I was just rocking with him, in stride with him. And that was about it. I mean, he was he broke a track record pulling up. That's how good he was and how fit he was. I knew exactly by working him exactly what he needed for the race and got him ready for that, for the Belmont, and he ran as I expected him.
All-time record mile and a half, fastest ever, 2:24. That next week, 2 days later, he was on the cover of Time, Newsweek, Sports Illustrated. Truly America's horse. Ron, why? It's a half century, 50 years later. Why does Secretariat Big Red still resonate with the fans?
Because he was that kind of horse that loved people. He loved to please us. He loved to run, and there was no machine like him on the racetrack. I never saw any horse like that. And I was around horses for quite a while before that, but I never saw anything like him.
Ron Turcotte, the Hall of Fame jockey, rider of the great Secretariat, called by many the greatest horse ever to look through a bridle, and I'll second that. Hope you enjoyed our interview there. We'll come back with some more on Oklahoma Sports Scene with a musical tribute to the great Secretariat.
It's time. Time to get back to the basics. Time to meet up with family and friends. Time to play ball. It's time to cheer on your Tulsa Drillers. It's Hornsby time. It's Tulsa time in the heart of the city. It's time to fire it up.
As the sun rises over eastern Oklahoma, we are devoted to one thing: improving the health of our communities, our home. We are your friends, your neighbors. We are the people of St. Francis.
The Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame, home of the Paycom Jim Thorpe Award, is a treasure trove of memorabilia honoring Oklahoma sports legends. For museum hours or to schedule a tour, go to oklahomasportshalloffame.org.
During this past year's Triple Crown, we played several of our award-winning ESPN musical features. One that really fits, I think, Secretariat the best. It's simply called Here's to the Heroes.
Here's to the heroes, those
We're back to look ahead on Oklahoma Sports Scene after the break.
The Remington Park Casino is always open for jackpot gaming. The winning action never ends. Enjoy great food and drinks in the Bricktown Brewery, open daily at 11 a.m. Simulcast racing is offered every day, featuring North America's best tracks. Visit the Club Remington desk for player card membership and begin earning points and rewards. The jackpots are always flowing. The next one could be yours at Remington Park.
You've seen the billboards, you've heard the hype, and now it's time for the Wee Street Ice Center to open its doors and welcome you in. 140,000 square feet, 2 ice rinks, public skating, hockey, arcade, game simulators, and the largest sports bar and grill is sliding into Tulsa. It's the grand opening of the new Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale. Make your plans, get your skate on, or watch some sports today. The Wee Street Ice Center, now open and ready to serve you. Wee Street Ice Center, 43rd and Yale.
It's time. Time to get back to the basics. Time to meet up with family and friends. Time to play ball. It's time to cheer on your Tulsa Drillers. It's Hornsby time. It's Tulsa time in the heart of the city. It's time to fire it up.
Our story, it lives in Tulsa, where the spirit of the past lives alongside us and urges us on toward a vibrant future. Because our story is still being written. It's the story of Tulsa, told by the journalists who live it and love it. Whether it's covering our rich history, bringing you the hidden gems of the food scene, or following the action in local sports. And here, in the Tulsa world, is where it comes to life.
So join us next week here on Oklahoma Sports Scene as we get closer and closer to the college football season of 2024. Till then, as we always remind you, be a good sport.